Sipping on my G3, these haters, they won't fight me. Industry don't like pimpin', I just might be the coolest motherfucker smoked out, playing nicely. Ballin' in this game, you can call me Jordan. Shake 'em all the way, egos broken on the floor, man. Shoes laced up, whole crowd looking at me. I hit 'em with the superstar, G-O-A-T, just like Kobe. I leveled up, I leveled up, I leveled up. I leveled up, so look at me, I leveled up. I leveled up, I leveled up, I leveled up. I leveled up, so look at me, I leveled up. Game so hard, ain't no
FCR 247, you're live in a mix. I have got a great interview just getting ready to happen for you. The man right here is a musician, composer, producer. I mean, this guy has created stuff that I personally know that I know you will know of. MacGyver theme song, Triple X scores. We've got more to talk about, but let's get into this. Mr. Randy Edelman, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good on this Sunday morning in Beverly Hills.
That's great, man. That's great. Now, we just had a whole big conversation, but before we get into any of that we talked about, let's start at the beginning, at the very beginning. Who, when, where, and why?
Just a little kid that used to hear things and run over to the piano in the living room when he was about 4 or 5 and just started playing melodies of what he heard. That's the beginning. That's the beginning, you know. No idea of what, you know, would become, no plans of all the different genres and areas that I've been involved with in musically, but just always loved music, kind of kept it quiet because I wanted to be like all the other kids. And when I was growing up, it was all about sports, you know, was not about music, you know. So I started taking piano lessons very early, serious stuff, you know, classical stuff. But I kept it kind of quiet while I was out doing the other stuff with everybody else. And I just did that. And I always had this kind of thing that I didn't play in the school orchestra, didn't have a band, nothing like that. Nothing that you would think leading to what happened to me. Yeah. So that's what it was. I always had this thing that I did that I had a very deep feeling about. And probably the only thing that I did have a deep feeling about. If it wasn't for this, I don't know what I'd be doing. But so that's how it started. And it just progressed over the years, you know. Long story, but we don't have time to get into it. But
so you sound like it was just built into you from the very beginning. And obviously, even if it was built into you, because, you know, I understand that I can hear the smallest little thing and I turn it into a song, or I'll write a full song based off of one sentence or whatever the case may be. Like, I understand that inner creativity fire, but somewhere along the line, you had to take that and you had to say, you know what, this is more than just me running to a piano. This is more than me just hearing a jingle and saying, wow, that's great. You had to actually speak about it. You had to actually step out of the sports area and say, well, this is who I am and this is what I've got. So yes. Where was that?
Well, moment? Yeah, but okay, but you're kind of leaving by just even talking about songs or that was all fun. I was a serious concert pianist since I was a young kid. I was a serious hours a day practicing, giving recitals. That's what I was doing. The other thing was just fun and games. I happened to like all kinds of show music, pop music, and I'd listen to it. But I was serious from early on, you know. So it wasn't just this fun thing. I was very, very disciplined, and for some reason there must have been a reason that I was disciplined, and it was obviously this feeling in my gut. And this was always something that I did really. I emphasize this even now, having worked in every possible area with zillions of musicians. I do this by myself. Yeah. I'm not a collaborator with anybody, and I never have been, even though, yeah, you'll look at a couple of my credits and say, holy shit, it says that you co-compose these monster scores with people but those were odd things. And the fact is I never co-composed or even met those other people. They were just odd circumstances, which happened to be for huge things of a very different style. And so some people may think, oh, I'm this guy who comes in and when there's a problem and straightens everything out, but I'm really not. Cool. I straighten it out myself.
Yeah. So okay, so this to you is a live, breathe, and die kind of thing, but it is a live, breathe, and die. I will do this, my way. Not to say that that's derogatory or negative in any way, because some of the greatest, most influential people, they did it their way. And I think that that's a very that's a statement that needs to be understood, is that conformity doesn't help you get where you want to be or where you think you want to be. It's staying true to your path and things like that.
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, any kind of art is only, especially pushing things forward, is only created. I don't care if you're a writer, an artist, what you are. It's created by one person. Now, film composing film music is a collaborative effort, not with other musicians, not the people who play. It's with a director and a producer and a screenwriter. That's something else. But as far as, any great art is basically, you have to be able to kind of stick to your guns. And once you get into the quote business side of any of these things, of which I have been immersed in so many areas, you have to be able to kind of give a little on an end, but it's not necessarily the creative end. It's just a bunch of people commenting on what you've done, and you try to hold on to 90% of most of it for whatever area it happens to be.
Right. I like how you said that. You try to hold on to it. I like that. You got to give a little bit, right? You got to give a little bit, right? So yeah. No, go ahead. What was you gonna say?
No. I could go on, but you go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, no. What I really like is I like how I like your attitude. I like your personality. I like the way you think about it. I take it very seriously myself. And I see all these new people in these today's world, especially on the internet age and things like that, that they think that they're 5 minutes of something and they're masters of it, or they think that they're 10 minutes of it and they know how to put together the most perfect video or the most perfect song or the most perfect composition or so on and so forth. But you have experience, and where do you rate the things that you've done on your life? So let's say I noticed one of them was an honorary doctorate from the University of Cincinnati. Has absolutely nothing to do with music or piano. Would you say pianist?
Of course it does. What do you mean? It has everything to do with
I mean, I understand the subject matter, but I'm saying it's not, you didn't create a work of art, like you didn't go into a studio and you didn't sit down and make it. But
no, it's all, listen, my whole thing is like, people say, when I did all my albums, are you an artist, a songwriter? You went into TV music and film music and all this stuff. I'm none of that stuff. I am a musician. That's it.
Musician.
And you better have your shit together. Okay. If you're fortunate enough to have an opportunity, which can come anywhere in a certain area, you better be able to cut it, or you're gone. Absolutely. You're gone in a second. Okay. I'm not talking about just the film business. Forget it.
All of it.
In all of it. So you get an opportunity. Now, you're not the one to establish, hey, is this guy really good? Is he great? Is he talented? No, that's for other people. But you better be devoted and able technically within your craft. Obviously, songwriting is a completely different animal. That has nothing to do with music and film writing. You can be a great songwriter and no shit, and the best people who do that are, they don't read or write music. Obviously, technically now with the things available, you don't have to. That takes nothing away from the person's talent. It's just a different way of going about things. But songwriting is one thing. Film scoring, you have to have your musical chops together. Although it's different now because, like I just said, the same thing. There's many people, I won't mention them, you know who they are, who write great film scores, and they've never been to school. They don't know how to read or note music. You say, how the hell did they write that 20-minute cue, catching everything? Well, they have a different way of doing it. And as I said, takes nothing away from their brilliance. It's just something new happened many years ago to change it. Just like the record business changed, used to be a music publisher had a song. The publisher took it to a guy at a record label called a record producer, who had a bunch of people on the record label who they were assigned to produce. And then they took them this song that the music publisher took them, and they maybe recorded it. Well, that all changed well before you were born, when 99% of the people selling records wrote and produced their own music. I don't care if it was the Beatles or Elton John or Carole King or the Eagles, that's what, or Bob Dylan. It just all changed. So you had a very few amount of people selling records that recorded, quote, outside material. I'm giving you a segue, but you're not taking it. What's the segue thing?
The segue is that you got to be an independent, man. You need to be independent.
No, the segue, no, I'm not telling you what to do. The segue is that how the fuck did I go from being this classical musician who got out of school and school was playing on Broadway to suddenly becoming a singer-songwriter when I hadn't sung in my life in the shower or to my mother or written a song?
How'd you do?
Well, like I said, you have to take advantage. What was happening at the time? The record business became people who did their own material. So I'm sitting there at the age of 19 or 20 saying, hey, you can write the greatest song in the world, but there's only 2 people selling records and they're not going to record it. So guess what? You better write your own. Now, the fact that my girlfriend dumped me at the time and I was going to check in to a mental institution because I had something called depression, which I didn't even know what it was. It was because of the circumstances, which led me into this very heartfelt period, with the draft going on at the end of the, thinking, what am I going to do? The girlfriend dumped me. I could be drafted. And all of a sudden I'm sitting down writing these very sad melodies along with a few lyrics, blah, 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 led to signing a 100-page recording contract to my name, and did an album of these 10 terribly sad songs. Of course, looking back, I have lots of things like this. Of course, you look back, it sounds like a joke. It was the greatest thing in the world that happened to me. I didn't know it at the time. But that's why I'm just talking about, but also musically, I had whether I had written songs, I obviously had a feel for it. I told you I used to listen for years to the radio and try to cop arrangements and stuff. So there was something serious. I had a passion about it, even though I wasn't in a rock and roll band in school or in high school. I had this thing that something else, maybe something that happened in my life, walking around New York in 0 degrees, slipping on ice and saying, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? But that led to, that led to me having a certain feeling in my gut, which enabled someone who had the musical background, plus a certain feeling, which you have to have if you're a songwriter. You can't teach someone how to make songs. If they're really going to be good, they have to have a certain, there has to be something there. It doesn't matter if you ever had a music lesson, as long as you can play the guitar or the piano or whatever it is decently enough to play your own songs, you may be great. So that's what sort of happened to me. That triggered that period of my life.
I love it.
You go in. I don't want to lead you. Go.
You took us through about 25 to 30 years right there.
I listen. I could be here. I mean, every song, every album, and I have the best. Nobody has my stories. I mean, and that took me through almost 10 years when I thought I would sign my name to that 100-page recording contract with a little company. I figured, which is basically the way I've thought about everything. And the way I've handled stuff, I figured, okay, You're going to do this album of your 10 crying, sad songs of the girlfriend dumping you. And and it's not going to happen. Probably. You always give yourself a little, and then you're going to move on with your conducting and you're playing piano on Broadway and you're blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And well, of course, part of that happened, but the other part is that didn't happen. 10 albums later, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without having a single, I mean, nobody has that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can people, I was with real record companies, how can all this stuff happen
And never
when you,
won.
well, obviously a lot of other stuff happened and people recorded the song, and I went to England and had big hits there. So it just wasn't the normal, you do an album and suddenly, boom. However, stuff happened and I did other stuff. And so that I never dreamed that I would end up spending all that time writing these songs and doing these solo albums, but not having it go down the normal path. So, but I still did a lot of things musically. I got a little involved in some scoring and learned some blah, blah, blah. And I did a bunch of different things while I was doing that. So in the quote, I'm just using it, 10 years later, I was ready to continue on doing the stuff. But meanwhile, I had put myself in, a pretty decent position by having hits by other people and doing concerts all over the world without having that big billion, album.
Yeah, without having all that serious, intense.
Well, no, it was serious. Well, it was serious.
Yeah,
plenty serious, but not the same way.
Crazy.
Somebody would be out on a tour.
Yeah.
So
well,
I mean,
good,
and I was
that should be good for you, though. You'd think that'd be good for you.
Well, no, it's And you know what? I mean, we're sitting here. Today's the day. It's the year it is, and I'm right now, because I've been doing a lot of this kind of stuff, I'm looking back on stuff, and yes, it's a pretty it's not unique. It's kind of unheard of the way I've been able to skate without smoke and mirrors. It's all been real, but to these different things. But I never, I was always serious about what I was doing. So all those years that I'm doing those albums, once in a while I go out and I conduct in Las Vegas for a singer, or I do a small movie. I didn't go from one thing to the other. I just included a lot of musical things. And so when I got out of that, and you don't just get out of it, like, how did you go from doing albums to being the busiest film composer in the world? Well, I didn't. I obviously did a lot of stuff and I got into it. But once I got into it, I never, ever wrote a song for 20 years. Never wanted to, never had time. Recently, I've done some other stuff, which we talked about before. However, I didn't delve into different things. I was focused. And so for all these years when you look and you see all those films, obviously, well, how the fuck did it? Because I was here 24/7. Once I got getting the pick, that's a whole other thing. But like I said before, if you get the opportunity, you got to make sure that you can produce in whatever is needed. You can do and deal with all the bullshit that you have to.
Let's real quick. We got just a few minutes. Got about 7, 8, 10 minutes here. Let's talk about that new song that you're working on, your new single. It sounds like it is it's its own work of art. Sounds like you created it's a fun thing. It's about the COVID, but it's not a serious song. It's about when we thought a few months ago things were getting better. Doesn't seem to be right now. It's working up again. But fortunately, of course, I'm not making light of it. I wrote this thing, did it all back here. It's unlike my big ballads and pianistic things. It's basically, the name of the song is Grab Your Hat, Put Your Best Suit On. Now that sounds like a terrible title, and it may be. So of course they call it Coming Out the Other Side, which means when everything is good, we're going to be able to go out
and get dressed up and go to dinner and concert, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say that exactly, but it's a fun thing that I played everything myself. It's not like my scores with big symphonic stuff. It's just a fun thing, but it's all over the place now. And it's something different. And like I said, I haven't done anything. Not only is that different than the kinds of songs that I wrote and I did on my albums and ones that all these other people did well with, it's something different. So see, I'm still sort of evolving and it's completely different. You listen to Last of the Mohegans or Gettysburg or Dragonheart or any of these big, huge symphonic things, and you'll say, this is the same person.
That's great.
You know,
though.
and
But that's great. That's great though, because I real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to interject that I like how you said you're evolving, because as a true musician, you never stop evolving. You never stop learning. You never stop getting better. So I'm really glad that you said that. Now, please continue what you were saying.
No. It's just it's just because, and within all the films, because you always have to have, even though I had all this background and I did some things in order to break into that big, you know, kind of Hollywood film score thing, there's got to be there's got to be that opportunity. And my a very kind of, it became a huge movie. And then that went to Ghostbusters 2 and to Kindergarten Cop. So all of a sudden I'm like the king of comedy in Hollywood. And then from those big kind of high concept things, I do My Cousin Vinny, The Mask, While You Were Sleeping, Adam Sandler's Billy Madison. I do every, and these things, which by the way, I didn't really want to do, because I said, hold it. I was elated that I had gotten into this situation after all these other things I had done. But I'm not I wasn't writing, by the way, funny music for any of those. You listen to comedies have romance, they have action, they have darkness. And if you listen to any of my scores, there'll be very few things that you could say, oh, that's the music from Kindergarten Cop, which is basically about a drug bust, It seriously. Or My Cousin Vinny, that takes place in the South, even though it's so funny. So I had to try to so-called, you just mentioned evolving, steer my ship. And then I did Mohegans and Gettysburg and Dragonheart and Anaconda and all these things. But it wasn't that easy. But I knew that I wanted to do that. But it was hard because I had established myself with these films that I said, once I did a few, it's like I didn't want to do that genre of film score. Thank God I did, because it turned out that all these things I did are classics. Now, I didn't know that when I did those films. They weren't.
How could you know, though?
Adam Sandler, I basically told him, hey, man, not in this way. Go fuck off. I'm not doing comedies anymore. Oh, you got to do it. We pretend your music. But he was a good guy and a very talented guy. And I did it. And same thing with My Cousin Vinny and Joe Pesci. And it's like, I always, and Jim Carrey in The Mask, who was just brilliant in that picture.
One of my icons.
The people in all those things I did, those things I mentioned, they were all really gifted comic talents. And that is really why I did all of them. And now when I go to, which is very rarely, because I don't want to, I go to do a master class at some, Berkeley or Juilliard or something. And I talk about all the serious background that I have in music. And I'm talking about all this kind of stuff, and it gets done. And I think these kids are going to ask me about what I talked about. You know what's in their dorm room, by the way, male or female, straight or gay, whoever it is in their dorm room are always 3 nerd films: The Mask, my cousin Vinny and Billy Madison.
Mhm.
And that's what they want to ask me about, the music, because I did all of them. You know what I mean? And I'm
That's
talking,
great.
it's like, okay, you talked about your bullshit and your background and your classical stuff and all the serious scores you did. Now
Yeah.
tell us about the stuff that we've been listening to since
What
we've been
waiting for. Yeah.
Yeah, and you go to their dorm room and they'll pull them out and they'll say, see? And I'll go, oh my God, not enough. But it's fine. Of course, it's great.
Yeah, obviously. I
It's
mean, whatever,
all
however they can relate, right? However, somebody.
No, of course, but it's just funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because those particular films, they were all little films,
Yeah.
low budget films.
Yeah. They ended up
When
being
I did
cult classics.
when I did, I'll tell you, my kid was about not 4. I'll say he was 6. With The Mask, when that came up, they needed it fast and it was low budget and blah blah blah. I didn't see it. I have never heard of this person.
Yeah.
Now, little did I know, my kid was in his room every week or whenever it was, watching a show, which I never heard about, called In Living Color.
In Living Color,
which was, I think, an all black cast, but one white guy.
Jim
that
Carrey.
was Jim Carrey.
Yep.
And he told me, and literally the next day after I got this call, that Pet Detective picture came out.
Yeah.
So I said, all right. We went down the hill to the famous Grauman's Chinese. I was living in the Hollywood Hills, and we saw Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and I saw this guy that was obviously a complete original.
Yeah.
Just great. Ran home with Noah. It first satisfied him. Okay, I'm calling tomorrow. At which point, maybe 12 other people. It doesn't happen like that, not 12. But somebody else may have said. So I called the next day and said, I'll do it. And they said, well, the budget's only, I said, yeah, I don't care if I pay for it.
Yeah.
I got it. And of course, by the time The Mask came out a few months later, it was the hottest thing going.
It was.
And and just, I'll give you one last thing. You know where I went? You know where that score was recorded? It was recorded in Ireland. And you'd say, why did you record a low budget film? Blah, blah, blah. Because they gave me $10, let's say, and it was a package thing. We don't have the normal situation. So we'll give you the $10 and it's a package. You just do it. And if you go over to the $10, you pay for it and you deliver it. And it's too long a story, but I had talked to somebody and I decided to go to Ireland. But by the time I went to Ireland to do the orchestral part of that, the picture had become it was going to be a big thing. And so the New Line, they were the company who were not that well known at the time. They called me and said, well, you're going on. I said, yeah, you gave me $10. I said, that's fine. I won't spend a cent over them. I'm going to Ireland. And I went and did it. And everybody looks at it and they go, it says score recorded by the Irish National Opera Orchestra. It's like, what the hell? What? That's what happened. And I went. I could have then gotten scared and said, okay, I can go to some other non-union with that situation. But I didn't. And so I went just to that's what I said. Yeah. You compromise. Okay, you compromise. You say, okay, I'll do it for $10. Yeah. That's your compromise. Don't tell me where to do it. As long as I turn it in and I give it my all and it's on time.
Right.
What do you care if I go to Siberia?
Right.
So, but it was, let me just tell you, because he had become, it was such a hot thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we spotted the music to The Mask in a motel in Burbank, in a little room. That's where we spotted it because that's where they were doing editing or something, But anyway, that's just one little story. But those things, of course, looking back, those were all great stories.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna have to
anyway.
Have you back.
Okay.
We're gonna have to have you back. I mean, I hope you'll be able to do this again. I would love to sit with you.
I doubt it.
That's great. No worries. No worries. No worries. No. Mr. Edelman, you have a website?
Call me Randy. Yeah.
Randy.
Just
Randy.
Yep. Yeah. Oh no, Yahoo. That's my email. Oh yeah, randyedelman.com. Just look up my name. It'll say website. You see all the crap.
And that's where we can find the new single.
No, you find a new single. You find that anywhere. Go to YouTube.
YouTube.
Coming out the other side.
Coming out.
Not hang your hat Put Your Best Suit On. It's called Coming Out the Other Side. Aren't you glad it's not called Hang Your Hat?
I know,
Bring
that's
Your
right.
Best Suit On. You never remember it.
No.
Well, it's okay. We'll close with this, and I just told you something, so I'll equate something to people, not people like you, but years ago, I wrote a song. It became a #1 record by a big artist by the name of Barry Manilow.
Oh, yeah.
And when I wrote the song and I played it before he did it, the publisher said, and I told him the title, they said, no, you can't call it that because it keeps saying, when will I hold you again?
Yeah.
So it's got to be called, When Will I Hold You Again? I said, that's a terrible, I'm not calling it that. I'm sticking to my title, which was called Weekend in New England. And that became a, big standard and everything. And luckily at the time, there was a group called the 3 Degrees who had a song called When Will I See You Again, Baby? And I used that. I said, I can't, because there's this other record out a few months ago, or they would have kind of like, pushed me against the wall and said, you're calling it, but I didn't. And I'm very happy because it never mentions Weekend in New England in the song. That's what I love about it. Nice. But it became a big hit. So that's like, but this one, Hang Your Hat, Put Your Best Suit On, maybe that's a little different.
Well, we'll find out. I don't know. I still think it's going to be coming out the other side. I still, You
got it, baby. Go to YouTube. Listen, it's a fun little ditty. It's not like my normal pretty ballad, big thing. It's a really fun song based on Buddy Holly's Peggy Sue, made in 1957. A little feeling of it.
All right. Well, we'll definitely check it out, brother. Thank you.
You got it. You've got 7 or 8 minutes, please.
Yes. Have a blessed day, man. This was thrilling. I loved it. Thank you very much.
Okay. You take care. Where are you, by the way?
I'm here in Toronto.
Oh, you're in Toronto. Oh, God. We could go on stories forever.
Well, if you ever come out this way, I got a coffee for you. We'll definitely sit down and talk some more.
I've been out that way. I got a lot of stuff about Toronto. All right. Take care.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day. All right.
You love her. You too.
Bye.